Imagine sitting in a courtroom, watching a 14-year-old girl on trial for murder. So you expect tears, fear, remorse. She was excellent in school, skipped the 4th grade, gifted, the kind of kid any parent would be proud of. Her teachers loved her. Her stepfather called her a sweet little girl. But on March 19, 2024, she picked up a .357 Magnum. She shot her mother in the face.
I started with Hinds County Sheriff's Department in June of 2007. I worked 2 years at the city of Flowood, and then I worked Yazoo County E911, a couple years at Mendenhall Police Department, and then the last 6 years before I came to Rankin County, I was a supervisor at the city of Florence.
Then she texted her stepfather to come home so she could kill him too. Can someone who giggles in court, who plays with her dogs while her mother's body lies on the floor, who asks a friend, "Have you ever seen a dead body before?" Can that person really be insane? But the story doesn't start with the gunshot. It starts with a secret, with burner phones, with a mother who just wanted to help her daughter. So how did Carly Gregg go from gifted honor student to convicted murderer? How did a 15-year-old end up with life in prison without parole? Let's find out. Ashley Smiley was 40 years old. She taught algebra at Northwest Rankin High School in Brandon, Mississippi. She was described by colleagues as dedicated, patient, the kind of teacher who stayed after class to help students who were struggling. She was also Carly Gregg's mother. Carly was 14 at the time. She was an exceptional student, gifted by every account. She had skipped the 4th grade entirely. She had no prior criminal history, no documented history of violence. On paper, she was the kind of teenager parents dream about, but the surface is not where this story lives. On the morning of March 19, 2024, Ashley Smiley drove her daughter to school. Northwest Rankin High School, the same school where Ashley taught math, the same school where Carly was a student. During that drive, something happened. A friend of Carly's had reached out to Ashley. He was worried, deeply worried. He told Ashley that Carly had been smoking marijuana, that she had burner phones Ashley didn't know about, that she was living what prosecutors would later call a secret life. Remember that detail: the friend, the tip, the burner phones. It becomes critical when understanding what happened next. Ashley confronted her daughter on the way to school. She asked about the marijuana, about the vape pens, about the secret phones. When they arrived at school, Ashley went to her classroom, Carly went to hers. But the school day would not end like any other. At some point during the day, Ashley left the school. Not she went home. She searched Carly's room, and she found the evidence: vape pens, marijuana, proof that her 14-year-old daughter had been hiding a significant part of her life. The confrontation that began in the car was not over. It was about to escalate in ways no one could have predicted. Carly got out of school early that day, a half day. She came home. What happened next was captured on the family's kitchen surveillance camera, and when that footage was played in court, even seasoned prosecutors struggled to watch it. The video shows Carly wearing a Nirvana t-shirt walking through the kitchen. She's holding something behind her back. She paces. She peers into the kitchen, as if checking to see if anyone is watching. Then she disappears off camera. Moments later, 3 gunshots ring out. A woman screams, then silence. Carly returns to the kitchen. She sits on a stool at the kitchen counter. She picks up a phone. She starts texting. Her 2 dogs wander around her feet. She reaches down and plays with them. Let that sink in. She had just shot her mother in the face. and she was playing with her dogs. The kitchen camera captured the entire sequence, the sound of the gunfire, the scream, and then a 14-year-old girl, completely calm, texting on her phone as if nothing had happened. The prosecution would later identify the weapon as a .357. The same gun, they noted, that belonged to Ashley. The same gun her stepfather had given her. Carly didn't stop with her mother. She picked up her mother's phone. She sent a text message to her stepfather, Heath Smiley. The message read, "When will you be home, honey?" Heath was at work. He had no idea what had happened. He responded that he was on his way. Then Carly picked up her own phone. She texted a friend. The friend would later be identified in court documents as BW. Her full name was kept private to protect her privacy. Carly told BW there was an emergency. She needed her to come over, now. When BW arrived, Carly met her at the door, and then she asked a question that would haunt the friend for the rest of her life. "Have you ever seen a dead body before?" BW said no.
The evidence will also be that one of these friends did in fact come over to help Carly that day. She didn't know why, but she knew that her friend needed help, and she went to that home. We believe the evidence will show that when that friend arrived at Carly's house, that Carly walked to the front door, asked her, "Are you squeamish around dead bodies?" We believe the evidence will show that then she took that friend and showed her her dead mother laying on the floor. We believe the evidence will show that after that, she says, "I put 3 in my mom, and I got 3 more waiting for my stepdad when he gets home."
BW went outside. She waited. She heard Carly tell her to wait outside because her stepfather was about to come home. Heath Smiley arrived at the house. He walked through the kitchen door. He had no idea what was waiting for him. "When I opened the door to the kitchen," Heath would later testify, the gun went off in my face before the door was 3 or 4 inches wide open. The gun flashed in his face. It went off 2 more times, but after the first shot, Heath's hand found the gun. He wrestled it away from his stepdaughter. Carly ran. She jumped over a back fence. She fled half a mile from the house before police took her into custody. Heath, bleeding from a gunshot wound to the shoulder, called 911. The dispatcher answered.
What's the location of emergency? What daughter did you do me? Your daughter tried to shoot you? Yeah. Shooting at me. Where is she at? How old is she? She's 14. 14? Okay, ma'am, stay on the phone. Ma'am, stay on the phone with me. Just calm down. What's your name? Okay, calm down for me. Give me your name again. Heath Smiley. Heath Smiley? Yes, sir. All right, mister, what's your phone number you calling me from? Did she hit you? Yeah, I got hit in the neck a little bit. Okay, so it grazed your neck? Yes, sir. All right, and what's her name? Carly Gregg. Carly Gregg? You still have a gun on her? She ran. You took it from her and she ran? Yes, sir.
First responders recorded a shocking and chaotic scene on the body cam. The footage was later played in the court.
Hey, come outside for me. Hey, come here. Hey, where's your wife at, bud? Where's your wife at?
She's dead on the floor in that room.
She's where? Sheriff's office! Hello? I need medical here.
Carly Gregg was arrested that night. She was charged as an adult with first-degree murder, attempted murder, and tampering with evidence. The tampering charge came from the fact that she had hidden a security camera after the shooting, presumably to destroy evidence.
gonna do is I'm gonna move them around to the front of you, okay? I'm gonna move the handcuffs around to the front of you. Okay. Alright. Alright, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna swab your hands, okay? Right. Now, I'll ask you a bunch of questions, but obviously you fired with a pistol, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Alright, look. I need you to hold your hand out like this. I'm gonna do your right hand first, okay? It's your right hand. Keep it right like that.
Swab up here.
What is this?
It's a GSR. It shows which hand did you shoot with? Which hand did you shoot with?
At her initial court appearance, a judge set bond at $1 million. Her attorneys unsuccessfully petitioned to have it reduced. They described her as an exceptional student with no prior criminal history. Prosecutors offered her a plea deal: 40 years in prison, no trial, no uncertainty. Carly Gregg rejected the deal.
Let's see. Okay. All right. Stan Mississippi versus Carly Gregg, cause number 2024-34169. Please bring the defendant to the podium. All right. We're here by way of pretrial conference checklist, which means that the defendant has rejected any recommendation from the state. For the record, what was the last recommendation of the state of Mississippi?
Here, the state recommended 40 years in the custody of Mississippi Department of Corrections and agreed to null cross counts 2 and 3 of the indictment. Again, there were fines and no contact.
All right. Ms. Gregg, did you receive that recommendation of 40 years?
Yes, sir.
And it was your choice and your choice alone to reject that recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor.
She proceeds to trial. Count 1, what's the potential sentence? If the jury fails to affix the sentence at life, what's the sentencing range?
20 years to 40 years.
All right, and count 2, what's the potential sentence?
Between 20 years and life.
All right. She's 14 years old, so if the jury fails to affix the punishment at life, she's facing 50 years?
Give or take, Your Honor, yes.
Okay. And in count 3, what's she facing?
Another 10 years.
Another 10 years. So the jury will either acquit you, or you'll be facing 2 life sentences, or this court can sentence you up to 93 years. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Her legal team announced they would pursue an insanity defense. They would argue that Carly was in the midst of a mental health crisis, that she had blacked out, that she did not remember shooting her mother, and for a moment, it seemed like her story might hold. The trial began in September 2024. 5 days of testimony. 5 days of watching a teenager sit at the defense table, sometimes serious, sometimes giggling, always watching. The prosecution presented their case methodically. First, they played the kitchen surveillance footage, the video that showed Carly pacing with something behind her back, the 3 gunshots, the scream, the teenager casually sitting on a stool, texting, playing with her dogs. The jury watched in silence. Then they called Heath Smiley to the stand, the man who had survived being shot by his own stepdaughter, the man who had found his wife's body. Heath testified that he had always thought of Carly as a sweet little girl, but on that day, something was different. He said she looked like she had seen a demon. He said he didn't believe she even recognized him.
Anything else that was going on with Carly that concerned you at that time?
Not that I recall. She was kind of having problems with time management kind of stuff, and maybe remembering a couple things, which is a little unusual for her with schoolwork stuff.
Can you tell me about the issues she was having with remembering things?
But then the prosecution asked him about the moment he walked through the door, the gun firing before the door was fully open, the flash in his face, the 3 shots. Heath described wrestling the gun away from her. He described her fleeing. He described finding his wife's body. Then the prosecution played the 911 call. The jury heard Heath's voice, panicked, desperate, saying the words, "She killed her mom." Carly, sitting at the defense table, covered her ears with her hands. She squeezed her eyes closed. She couldn't listen to what she had done.
She killed her mom! She killed her mom? Yeah, that's what I'm screaming about!
The prosecution called the forensic experts. The medical examiner testified that Ashley Smiley had been shot in the face multiple times, that any one of the wounds would have been fatal. Then the prosecution did something unexpected. They called Carly's therapist. Rebecca Kirk, a licensed professional counselor, had seen Carly for 9 sessions in the weeks leading up to the shooting. She testified that Carly had talked about reading Crime and Punishment, the Dostoevsky novel about a man who plans and executes a murder believing he is above the law. The defense quickly pointed out that Carly never actually read the book, but the seed was planted. A 14-year-old girl obsessed with a story about a murderer who thought he was extraordinary, who thought he was entitled to kill. The therapist also testified that at her last session with Carly, the day before the shooting, Carly had seemed emotionally stable, no signs of an impending psychotic break.
On this first meeting, did Carly ever report to you any use of illegal drugs?
No.
Did she ever report to you that she was hearing voices of any sort?
No.
Did she ever report that she was having any sort of hallucinations?
No.
What about, did she ever report to you that she was having memory trouble?
No.
What about feeling derealized?
No.
Did she or Ashley ever bring up the word disassociation? And to be clear, I want to talk about the first day, but was there ever a time in your treatment of Carly that she reported that she was having any sort of blackout? Like there were times where she didn't remember what she'd done?
No.
These detail becomes critical later. Remember them. Then came the defense's case, and this is where the mask seemed to hold. The defense called Dr. Andrew Clark, a child and adolescent psychiatrist. Dr. Clark testified that he had evaluated Carly after the shooting. He diagnosed her with bipolar II disorder. He said her medication had been switched from Zoloft to Lexapro a week before the incident, and that she hadn't made the switch properly. The medication change, he testified, made her mood swings worse. He said Carly told him her memory went blank when she got home that day. The next thing she remembered was when the deputy picked her up after her arrest. She had blacked out for up to 90 minutes. He testified that she had been hearing voices for years. A male voice, she told him, that she had heard since she was 5 or 6 years old. The voice was always in the background, she said, and she could tune it out. But in the days leading up to the shooting, the voices had been intensifying.
She told me that I asked her to estimate over the last 5 years, how much of your time have you spent in any state? What she said to me was, over the last 5 years, she thought about 60% of her time in a depressed state, about 20% of her time in a hypomanic state, and about 20% of her time in a normal mood state. So I gave her the diagnosis of bipolar II disorder.
The defense also called Deputy Tony Shack. They played body camera footage from the night of the shooting. In the footage, Carly is in the back of a patrol car. Her handcuffs are being adjusted, and she asks a question. "Is my stepdad okay?" The deputy tells her he doesn't know. He asks if she's okay. "Yeah, I'm fine," she says. The defense used this moment to show that Carly cared about her stepfather, that she wasn't a cold-blooded killer, that she was a confused, mentally ill teenager who had blacked out and didn't remember what she had done. For a moment, it seemed to be working, but the prosecution called their own mental health expert, Dr. Jason C. Pickett, a forensic psychiatrist. He had interviewed Carly for over 4 hours. He listened to the defense's claims. He reviewed the evidence. And then he told the jury something devastating. "I used the word diabolical, and I stand by that word." Dr. Pickett testified that Carly's actions were not consistent with a dissociative spell, not consistent with psychosis, not consistent with mania.
When Carly on that day went and unlocked the phone, texted a specific target, her stepfather, who she told me was more of a father figure to her than Kevin was, and said, "When are you almost home, honey?" Using that honey is an enduring term. I might use it for my family, a loved one. I wouldn't use it for a stranger. When she did that to me, that was very specific and diabolical. And that to me is not consistent with a dissociative spell. That is not consistent with psychosis. That is not consistent with mania. And it's definitely not consistent with hypomania. To me, that was deceitful. This conveniently puts her right beside the camera footage that then turns off and is later found hidden behind some water bottles in the refrigerator. I presume it's hidden. There were water bottles and it was behind it in the corner. To me, that strongly suggests somebody who's trying to hide evidence and avoid detection because they appreciated the wrongfulness of what they were doing. A psychotic person who's disorganized and doesn't know who they are or what just happened or where they're at, would put the camera, take it down, and put it in the refrigerator behind water bottles.
Think about that. A forensic psychiatrist, a neutral expert sitting in a courtroom and telling a jury that a 14-year-old girl's actions were not the product of mental illness. They were diabolical, calculated, intentional. The prosecutor, Catherine Newman, stood before the jury and delivered the closing argument that would seal Carly Gregg's fate.
You heard about voices. Let me tell you whose voice I'm talking about today. Ashley Smiley. Ashley Smiley's voice matters. Because of Carly Gregg's actions, we will never hear Ashley Gregg's voice again. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard the very last noise she made. Carly Gregg, her daughter, took a gun, walked across the house, pulled it out on her mother, fired once, you hear her mother scream. Fired twice, you hear her mother scream. 1, 2, 3, 4, you hear the third shot. Ladies and gentlemen, you saw that awful picture. You saw the stippling. You saw what she did. That person has not been restored. That person was never insane to begin with. You know what you didn't hear the defense attorneys talk about? The insanity standard. You know why you don't want to talk about the standard? Because they can't prove it. They can't prove it, ladies and gentlemen. You know what they tried to stand up here and say? The state hasn't told you why. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk during voir dire, what do we talk about? That's not the state's burden. You won't find one place in the jury instructions that it tells you that the state of Mississippi has the burden to show you why Carly Gregg killed her mother, to show you why Carly Gregg attempted to kill Heath Smiley, to show you why Carly Gregg removed that camera that caught her actions and hid it into the refrigerator. That's not our burden. Our burden is to show beyond a reasonable doubt that she did it. And the defense attorneys have admitted that she did it.
Then Newman held up a piece of paper. It was from Carly's journal, a list of 5 beliefs Carly had written down.
I want you to look at her journals. There's a page back there that says, "What do I believe?" There's no God, heaven and hell are false. You writing your own destiny. And these two stand out to me, ladies and gentlemen. She told us what her intent was. You don't need family, and it's okay to be evil.
Newman looked at the jury. You think that sounds like an insane person? The jury deliberated for 2 hours. 2 hours. They had sat through 5 days of testimony. They had heard from psychiatrists and friends and family members. They had watched the kitchen video. They had listened to the 911 call. And it took them only 2 hours to see through everything. Here's the verdict.
Verdict of the jury is count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of attempted murder as charged in the indictment. Count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in the indictment.
Carly Gregg, 15 years old, sobbed as the verdict was read. She shook her head. She mouthed the word no. Her lawyer put an arm around her and told her everything was going to be okay. No, she said, it's not. She was right. Rankin County District Attorney Bubba Bramlett spoke to reporters after the verdict. He said something that captured exactly what this case was about.
Carly Gregg is evil, and that's not easy to say, but the truth of the matter is sometimes evil comes in young packages, small packages, and this is one of those cases. She's fit to go to prison for the rest of her life. You hate that. She's 15 years old, but that's exactly where she belongs. I felt like her defense threw a Hail Mary trying to say that she was insane. Carly Gregg and the word insanity should never be used in the same sentence. In Mississippi, you're insane if you don't know right from wrong. And she knew what she was doing was wrong when she killed her mother. And she knew all the evidence, not most of it, all the evidence.
In the sentencing phase, the jury deliberated for less than an hour. Their recommendation, life in prison without the possibility of parole. Judge Dewey Arthur accepted the recommendation. He sentenced Carly Gregg to life in prison for first-degree murder, life in prison for attempted murder, and 10 years for tampering with evidence. She will be 69 years old before she has any chance of walking free.
Your sentences will be as follows. As to count 1, the jury having fixed the verdict at life imprisonment, this court will sentence you to life imprisonment. As to count 2, you'll be sentenced to life imprisonment. As to count 3, you'll be sentenced to 10 years to serve.